Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SBP podcast. My name is Linda, and I'm the moderator for today's discussion. Our topic today is From Dependence to Self-Sufficiency, Mobilizing Private Capital for Nigeria's Health and Life Sciences Value Chain. And we're going to dive straight into it. But before then, I have the privilege to welcome a very distinguished and well-respected legal practitioner today. She is a senior associate at Strain & Bland Partners and also the deputy sector lead for the health sector. It's my pleasure to welcome Omolola Ambrose. Welcome, Ma.
Thank you, Linda. It's glad to be here.
It's good to have you. So let's just get right into it. Nigeria's import has been quite alarming because Nigeria imports medicines, and not just that, medical equipment, and even those that's produced locally find themselves importing the raw materials. So why would you say this is our reality as a nation, and what are the risks that are associated with this dependence on importation?
Okay, so I'll start with when you spoke about our reliance on importation, and this is very true. Let's go through the statistics. As at 2023, we had our exports at worth 715,350 USD. And then for 2024, we had our exports at $2.4 million. And for imports, as at 2023, our imports was over 900 million. And for imports 2024, it was over 600 million. So actually, there's a lot of reliance on importation. And the reason is simple. We do not have the equipment, we do not have the facilities for pharmaceutical plants or even the drug making, yes? And as a result of this, there's little the locals can do. So what's the risk associated with all of this? The first one is it comes with costs. I remember as at 2015 or thereabouts when my dad used to get me this drug, Perfectil. Perfectil was for hair, skin and nails. And it cost around 3,000, 4,000 naira. But currently, Perfectil costs 11,000
Wow.
at least. And at the most, we're talking about 18,000 naira. That's about, you're seeing over 100% to 300% increase. And that's because those products are not locally manufactured. Yes. And the second risk also is it affects our overall development, as an industry, because we keep on having to outsource, and then to bring in, we still import. So there's little or no development when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry, right? And there are also risks when it comes to, in terms of sensitive times. For instance, I remember as of 2020, during the pandemic, we had very limited, we could import limited jars from Europe, right? There was a temporary ban on that. And that was the period where we had nose mask, sold at the cost of 1,000 naira. We had nose masks sold at the cost of 1,000 naira. And then people started improvising. We had people now having to use Ankara Ashoke as nose mask. Yes, that was the period then. So, and all of this would have been sorted out if we had our own local industry properly equipped. And of course, there's also the cost rising also comes with currency too, because of the currency fluctuations as at then, and even till now, although we know that Naira is now gaining its ground well enough. But then I would say that we can't be so certain. So the earlier we curtail these risks by ensuring that we have our manufacturing arm is properly on set. That's first. And secondly, we have the regulation and policy also supporting all of this. I think with that, the industry is set to go.
Thank you so much for your response. Those numbers you called, they're quite alarming.
I agree. I completely agree.
And it just shows that the Nigerian government itself cannot alone carry the vision of reducing our dependency on importation in Nigeria. And so what would you say is the role of private persons and, investors, angel investors and public-private partnerships in ensuring that the health sector is where it ought to be in Nigeria?
Private capital. That's the response. Private capital. And of course, mainly private capital, but that's not all. But private capital because they are the ones that have like you said, venture capital, HNIs, high net worth individuals. And one thing with the private sector is they're usually willing to take a lot of risk. So alongside the private capital is also the efficiency. We would not lie that when it comes to the private sector, they are because it's a profiteering industry in and of itself. It simply means that they would want to do things well and appropriately, so that they don't run at a loss. So with those two items in the equation, that's one of the major rules we can say that private sector will definitely come into play. The capital and then the efficiency that they bring alongside.
Thank you so much. Your answer is so spot on. Capital and efficiency. True. So now when we have all this, it means that Nigeria to some extent will be self-sufficient. But people sometimes get, the idea of self-sufficiency wrong. Some people believe it's us producing everything 100%. So can you just clarify what is realistic self-sufficiency when it comes to manufacturing, distribution, and of course sales of pharmaceutical products in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. So I think there's this myth around self-sufficiency being we produce every syringe, every pill. Actually, the cost of producing a single drug is around $2.34 billion, right? Having just one drug get into the market. So what does that mean? It means there's a whole lot that goes into it. So we can't exactly produce everything that the citizenry would use. However, sufficiency in this context would mean we having to produce essential medicines. So let's say 60 to 70% should be, maybe that's too generous, right? 70. But let's say around 50 to 60 should come from us, right? We should have our supply chain, each level of our supply chain well catered for when it comes to the storage. Do you understand? So these are things that, would dictate or would spell sufficiency for us. Not us having to produce everything, but ensuring that each level of the supply chain is well catered for in terms of our storage, in terms of our manufacturing, and even having our policy regulation in place is also very essential. On policy regulation, I think there's a whole lot that the government can do to ensure that our policies are right, and they do not sabotage what the industry actors are trying to do.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. So let's circle back to your previous answer about capital and efficiency.
Yes.
What can you give us some examples of areas, whether international places or in Nigeria itself, where the private investors were able to transform the healthcare system?
Okay, so I'll go local then. Sorry, I'll go international. Then I'll come back to Nigeria. I'll start with India, right? They are known as the global pharmaceutical village in that sense. And the reason is simple, right? If we're to go down the memory lane, it started in 1970 during the period of Indira Gandhi, right? And then they had the Patent Act previously. And I think they were able to, because of our time, I think they were able to weaponize what the Patent Act, the provisions therein, and it created a sort of market for local manufacturers. So that's India weaponizing policy, right? So we have them first. And I think Nigeria can take a cue from that when it comes to policy regulation. Then secondly, we have Kenya. And for Kenya, we have a lot of private-public partnerships for cancer centers, diagnostic centers, dialysis. So we have that to take a cue from. And even within Nigeria here, of course, I'm a proud Lagosian. We have Lagos State, right? So, and in Lagos State, we have a number of diagnostic centers, and that has only been achieved through PPPs. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we've spelled out the importance of private players involving themselves in what happens in the health sector.
Yes, please.
Right. So now, I'm sure a potential investor is wondering, how do I come in? How do I participate? How do I bring my own quota into this grand dream of ensuring that the health sector in Nigeria is where it's supposed to be? So can you give us a structured model of how a potential investor can bring in funding into the healthcare system in Nigeria?
Okay. So when it comes to funding, right, we have it in different shades. So firstly, we have the venture capital, and then we have we have the private investors, individuals. And of course, for venture capital, it has to do with a pool of funds. Of course, we could have individual private investors. We could also have angel investors, right? And then we also have diaspora, people in the diaspora who are willing to invest, take those risks. Of course, because of currency, right? The currency and the kind of favor that it benefits them. So a kind of favor that it gets them. So we have that too. So we have diaspora investment, we have private equity, we have venture capital, and of course for our local banks also we have debt financing. So those are the ways. And when it comes to the how, this is where legal practitioners do come in, right? When it has to do with negotiating the contract, the provisions, therein a clear private-public partnership, if of course the government is going to be involved. Because I think in all of this discourse here, it would be very mythical for me to assume that the private individuals can do it just because they have capital and because they are efficient. No, they can't do it all alone. I think the government stakeholders, they have a role to play. And I mean, this is why we do need them, and this is why the whole concept of public-private partnerships is something that we should definitely key into.
Yeah, speaking of that, your last note on what government is supposed to do, I have seen that actually now that you've told them what to do and how they can invest, and of course getting legal opinion so that they know what to do, they also need to understand what the government's role will be in all this. So how do you say the government can make the healthcare sector in Nigeria attractive enough for potential investors so that they come in and actually put in the funds that are needed to overhaul the sector?
Okay, so first with the framework, we need a clear-cut framework. I think we actually do need a lot of concept notes, guide notes, legislation, whatever terminology we want to give it for public-private partnerships. We need that clear-cut framework. Then secondly, we need to get it right with our regulation. Remember I spoke about India. Of course, the Patent Act, they took a cue from it and they were able to weaponize it. But then it only makes us understand that legislations are very important when it comes to us having to develop the industry. It's not just about the product itself, the laws. You cannot, there's this very common saying in the tech space. They will say you cannot outbuild, or more like saying that you cannot create or innovate out of a problem that only policy can solve. This is a clear policy problem. So I think we need to get it right with our policy. And then, of course, thirdly, we need to bring in more incentives. Of course, with incentives, yes. I remember I was at this show, not a show, more like an event. And then the person there, they asked one of the panelists, they asked her that, would you prefer a highly regulated system with more taxes, or would you prefer a porous system with
more incentives?
Exactly. And guess what she said? She said, give me the highly regulated system with more taxes.
Well, I guess because that brings a bit of prediction.
Exactly. So nobody wants or loves anything volatile.
Yeah, uncertainty.
Exactly. So volatility is not exactly good for a business. In a business environment, you can't do so well with, volatile measures. Today is one regulation, tomorrow is the next regulation. You don't know where we're headed. So that's why I think that even with our incentives, our tax incentives, where it comes with our pioneer status, research and development, all of that, we still need to put in our regulation in place. And of course, that's in addition, with a clear-cut framework for our PPPs.
I absolutely agree. And speaking of regulations, I feel like they have to make sure they have enough foresight when they are creating the regulations, so that
very true.
Another issue doesn't come up tomorrow and you are making a new regulation.
More like reactive.
Exactly.
Being reactive does not solve anything. The government always has to be proactive. Right. And more particularly for the health sector, because this is dealing with lives. So you have to be proactive in whatever, not just, this is coming up, oh, we have to react to it. It doesn't work that way.
Thank you very much for that response, Omolola. Now, speaking of lives, of course, we're talking about not just concepts and government policies, but these things actually affect humans, right? Human beings. So let's say that we have this beautiful world where investors are ready to fund the healthcare sector, and then government has beautiful policies. What would be the average life for a typical Nigerian in that kind of system where everything is available and provided as it should be?
When we look at the future, right, the first thing is accessibility. But accessibility doesn't even stand alone. It comes with affordability. That's like the second leg, right? And the reason why accessibility and affordability, they both go or they work hand in hand is because, I mean, if you can access it, but you can't afford it, it's practically useless. And if you can afford it and it's not there, I mean, that's the bedrock for medical tourism.
Yes.
Nigeria spent nothing less than $1 billion to $2.1 billion on medical tourism. Yes. And that's because it's not accessible. People do not even have confidence in it, right? There's also that one too as well. But on the whole, accessibility and affordability are two things that we must pay attention to. And I mean, I must recollect the periods where I was not on any health insurance, right? I just had to cater for my medical expenses. It was a lot. I then knew that no one was paying lip service to the words health is wealth. I knew it was indeed very true that health is wealth. So at the end of the day, right, healthcare in Nigeria is actually expensive. But a lot of us, we don't know that, right? Healthcare is expensive. So I believe that the future for the average Nigerian, when we put in all of this regulation and all of the things I highlighted, when we put it in place, it's going to make it accessible, healthcare accessible as well as affordable. Then the second thing is, like I said, fewer Nigerians would have to go out to take care of themselves or to, address their health challenges. They wouldn't have to do that anymore. Then, of course, thirdly, we would have a lot of individuals employed. Mm-hmm. A number of our youths are unemployed. If we have a healthcare that is working, if we have an industry that is doing fine, I think we'll take a number of youths off the street.
Sure.
So, and I mean, it's not like they all have to study medicine, all right? There's always a lot of... Exactly. There are definitely a number of job descriptions to accommodate the unemployed youths in the healthcare industry. So I think that, and this future we're talking about, I'm not talking a fantasy. This is real. And I only think that it can become real to us when we put in those measures. Ensure that we have our policy rights, ensure that we have, there's the funding that's from the private sector angle, and also ensure that, even with the funding, we have a clear-cut framework. So yes, with that, we're good to go.
Wow. Thank you so much, Omolola. We've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the role of the government. We've talked about the role of private individuals and investors. And of course, we even talked about the role of the average Nigerian in all this. Yeah. So can you just summarize for our audience now, a key takeaway for them? What are those things that they're supposed to pick from this conversation so that they can also add to the discussion going forward and, of course, contribute their own quota to the health sector in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say this before going into an answer. I would wish this does not end with Linda, but of course it has to come to an end. So the first thing is dependence is unsustainable. It cannot be sustained. We cannot keep on importing. I mean, the country is bleeding dry. So importation is not sustainable. Dependence is not sustainable. So that means we need to fix our industry as soon as possible. That's the first thing. The second thing is private capital. Mm-hmm. Private capital is very important.
Very.
So all of this goes to moot if there's no money. So, I mean, money makes it work, like at least. And then the third one is policy. We need to get our policy right. If we understand firstly that dependence is unsustainable, if we get our private capital and then we get our policy right, we're definitely good to go. We'd have a healthcare industry working fine and perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have policy, we have funding, and we, of course, have
understand the fact that dependence is not sustainable. So those three things, and then we are good to go. I mean, it's that easy.
Thank you so much. And we've come to the end of today's discussion. It was really fun having you, and I learned so much personally, and I'm sure that our audience also learned a lot. And so that's all for us today. I'm sure you learned something. You can comment, let us know what you've learned and your own contribution to this ongoing discussion on the health sector and how we can improve our health sector in Nigeria. So that is all for today. You can also ensure to subscribe so that the next time we have a stimulating conversation like this for you, you'll be the first to get the notification. And of course, if you have any questions for us about this ongoing discussion, make sure to leave us your question in the email address that will be displayed below. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Bye.